Morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this session in the cloud economy, containers and the new currency. My name is Kieran Sambrook-Smith. I am Chief Commercial Officer for Platform. I've been with Platform since before we launched this PaaS service when we were commerce guys, and prior to that I've been CEO or in various commercial and strategy leadership roles for several startups. If you don't know Platform all that well, we're a container management platform, and we've automated away all the cloud infrastructure management that you would normally be doing with a team of engineers and DevOps. And this allows dev teams to focus solely on building application code. The PaaS deals with test environments, build systems, deployments, live service management, and so on, all around the globe. So for all you managers wondering why you're spending so much time and money making the benefits of container tech available to your business, we may have a very nice answer for you. So, in our new cloud economy, containers are the new currency. Let's discuss. So there are also, the containers are also base forms of currency like coins. But who wants to deal in cash these days? In some countries, nobody takes cash anyway. We prefer to use more convenient, simple forms of payment like the credit card. And although credit cards allow you to pay for things in basic units of currency like pounds and pence and dollars and cents, they're just an abstraction of all that cash liquidity that lies underneath. And even though we love our credit cards and they're super useful, there's still better ways of paying for things, high value payment mechanisms with better automation and deeper integration like PayPal, for instance, or Apple Pay or Revolut are good current examples. So going back to containers being the base cloud currency, we're now looking at container management platforms as a more convenient, more simple form of abstraction that gives us access to cloud liquidity. Kubernetes, for instance, is a very flexible tool set, but it takes a lot of effort to build anything. And if you didn't know, only about 15% of enterprise are using Kubernetes to manage workloads in production. For something like that, you want Pivotal or Red Hat, which are higher levels of abstraction, and they provide easier access to containers. But you still have to cobble together all the building blocks, and you still need to maintain them. We see the PaaS as the highest level of abstraction in the market today, providing access to limitless numbers of containers instantly and at any time on any hyperscaling cloud provider and anywhere in the world. And there's no build effort and there's no maintenance costs, certainly not with platform.sh. So if you're wondering what level of control you lose, then you're probably asking the wrong question. The platform PaaS certainly is suited to 99% of application use cases. So what do winners and losers look like in this cloud economy? Well, I've divided them up into two simple categories: providers of cloud services and then consumers of cloud services, i.e. your business. So let's look at cloud service providers first. In the winners category, there seems to be a clear common denominator, that being abstraction. The hyperscalers have a big advantage, of course. They've taken big investment bets on buying capacity, but they're still building abstraction stories, and these are going to carry a lot of weight in future. 1 in 3 enterprise uses Kubernetes, but not all that much in production. I mean, it's difficult enough doing it well in development, but the cost and complexity of making it work properly in production is still way too high. Companies like Red Hat, as I pointed out, are better for that. And these companies are clearly on the right track. They've both been sold recently for billions, and that's because they're abstracting container complexity and they're offering pretty significant productivity savings We think our metrics are much better, by the way, but more on that later. And I think the big difference is the millions needed to build and operate those frameworks, which you just wouldn't have to find using a PaaS. And by clear contrast, the losers are not doing abstraction well at all. They're offering people-based managed services and container management offerings with just way too many gaps. Many smaller hosting companies struggle to differentiate, and some are going out of business. In fact, the Magento hosting community is a very good example of exactly that. 18 months following the launch of the Magento 2 Enterprise Cloud, that hosting community had virtually disappeared. And on the consumer side, there's just so much choice. Everybody needs to be taking advantage of abstraction, and where they can, the cloud also. I think it's obvious, the less you have to build and manage yourself, the more you're able to concentrate on the things that matter, like your applications. So we've established this notion of a cloud economy and that containers are the new currency. So let's start spending, shall we? We're already spending, by the way. Anybody with a phone is using cloud services, and most of your companies are moving more and more into the cloud every day. As you can see from the slide, I've created 3 simple categories of cloud consumption, starting at the top. If you buy something already built for the cloud, it's likely to be subscription-based, and the experience is likely to be good. So the risk of things going wrong is low. If you're building cloud native services and you've decided to manage them yourself, complexity, cost, and risk of problems all begin to increase. And of course, moving legacy workloads as they are tends to be the most problematic. Of course, when we start spending, the experience we're all looking for looks like this. Wonderful blue skies, white fluffy clouds. It's what we want, it's what we hope for, it's what we plan for, and sadly, it's what some of us go to bed dreaming about. And then we wake up in a cold sweat, because that's just not reality. Our cloud experiences are rarely faultless, because doing cloud well is difficult. It's riddled with complexity, and it's really expensive when we do it ourselves. And yet the hyperscalers make it look so easy, with their network level SLAs and hundreds of different tool sets to integrate. And the worst of it is, whichever IaaS provider we choose anyway, we have to lock ourselves into to get the most out of. So what creates these stormy conditions? Well, why is this difficult? Turning business ideas into code, that's the easy bit. We're all doing it. It's why we have development teams. Whether you're a software vendor offering a SaaS service or an enterprise projecting themselves into cyberspace, coding has to be done by somebody, but it's the next bit that doesn't. So when we build cloud management ourselves, we need to work our way through all of this first. We need to decide which server instance types and storage are best for which workloads. We need to set up the network connections and create the base infrastructure. We then need to select all the right tool sets. We need to set them up and maintain them as they change versions. And wrapped around all the tools are layers of business process, all of which needs thinking about and creating and managing. And for that, we need to hire expensive expert engineers and DevOps. We then need to containerize all the apps, rebuilding them cloud native or decomposing everything into microservices, all of which then needs managing with something like Kubernetes. There are then significant considerations around the treatment of apps, those with a global audience and those that serve a single country, for instance. We probably need HA built in somewhere along the line. We definitely need orchestration to manage containers and densities as you increase volume, all of which has a critical impact on performance and cost management. And then all of that needs managing and fixing when it goes wrong, which it will. So we need a whole technical support function, as well as a user support team, and of course, everything then has to be secure. So that's a lot of complexity, and no wonder things go wrong and customers suffer. So introducing the platform as a service. Platform SH specifically is a container management platform for developers. It's a supreme layer of abstraction and automation that sits on top of the IaaS. We've got about 120 man years of engineering in this product now, and everything you see in that list is provided by the PaaS out of the box. So whether you're a vendor or an enterprise, we all know whoever your customer is, they're always looking for a better experience. So let's assume for a minute that the application is all we care about. Whatever our product or service is, it's usually represented through an application anyway. In fact, most of our business ideas we turn into code, and the resulting application projects our messaging across the web to be consumed by paying customers, hopefully. So the application, therefore, is at the apex of online business value, surely, isn't it? So shouldn't we be focusing all our efforts on making that application great and expect everything else to just work? So if we could make that a reality, diverting all our energy into just the app and nothing else, what would our prereqs be? Well, yes, of course, we want to be using Docker and containers and making the most of the cloud, of course, but we don't want any of the complexity that goes with those things. We don't want to pay anything up front either, no CapEx. We just want to pay for what we use when we use it. We want our apps in the cloud quickly and along with any changes that need to be made at the time. And yeah, we want to be able to switch an app from one cloud provider into another, and preferably at the touch of a button. The easier that is, the better. We want to put our apps as close to our customers as possible, and we never want to see downtime. So, okay, let's assume that we have those prereqs we've just talked about in place. We haven't built anything, by the way. We're just buying a service that does all of this for us, exactly as described. So what do we now need to do internally? How does the developer experience need to change? What's the absolute minimum amount of effort required to get this to this magical place where we're thinking about nothing but the app? Well, let's start with what you've already got under your control and work out from there. You've got your application code for a start. The dev team have all of that in Git somewhere. So I'm now thinking, why can't I put everything else into Git? The services and versions that each app needs, the hosting vendor we want to use, even the regional location for each application, the uptime SLA, because some only need 3 nines and some were happy to pay for a high level of service at, say, 4 nines. Wow, okay, sounds like infrastructure as a code to me, but really done well. If my team could have that, control of the hosting infrastructure without having to create a single ticket, make a single phone call, without even getting out of their seats, well, that's it, isn't it? I've got it. Hang on. What about when we need to make changes? We need to test it all in something that resembles the live system. If only I could click my fingers and get a complete instant copy of the live service, well, wow. If I could have that, I really would be done, wouldn't I? Well, hang on, not quite. Cloning all those resources into development branches sounds expensive. I need my whole team to have this. So, yeah, I mean, they need to be working on many things in parallel. If only I could have all of that at a reasonable cost, like, say, 50 cents a day for each branch. That really would be it. Wow, okay, so if we could really have all of that, then we've got a shot at making this happen. If we had all of this, we probably could concentrate everything into application development. Well, platform gives you all of this, and it's managed from your very own Git repo. Your dev teams code locally, and they simply merge changes into their chosen branch for testing. Each branch is a copy of staging or even the live service, and it comes with its own URL. So deployment managers and clients can see the changes in what looks like an exact copy of the application in production. The infrastructure teams get to control settings and hosting parameters via the app YAML files, so they're happy. And service management, operations, and the client-side support teams, they get visibility of the app status and performance. So we've just described what it would take 3 to 5 years and millions of dollars to build out with Kubernetes. Your dev teams can now forget about DevOps, and your DevOps can forget about managing containers in a complex global cloud infrastructure. And your business can sit back and enjoy more online success. As you can see from the diagram on the right, we built an extensive grid around the world consisting of 26 different regions currently, each one sitting on one of 4 IaaS providers. There's tens of thousands of cores available, spread out across thousands of hosts, and we handle peak events like Black Friday without a hitch, sometimes increasing our compute by 40+%. So who's using this platform exactly? On the consumer side, that's consumers of cloud services, we have several thousand customers using the PaaS as a SaaS service, provisioning application projects onto one of those 26 regions. They tend to be small, medium-sized business, individual developers. There's a few hundred digital agencies in there. We then have a high availability offer for enterprise, and the very large customers are able to put their PaaS onto their own IaaS account, but you need some pretty good reasons to do that. They can choose from 4 IaaS vendors, including the 3 hyperscalers. And as you can see, we have thousands of clients running 2 core projects all the way up to 384. We also have a strong business for providers also. That's the providers of cloud services. The big difference is that they want to white label the PaaS service and brand it as their own. We have some very well-known software vendors doing this, systems integrators, hosting companies. And here we have over 2,000 enterprise clients. They're typically running 6 to 12 cores up to 190 plus. And we also have over 8,000 SaaS subscriptions under management. A lot of the SaaS is multi-tenant, and you have a lot of subscribers sharing resources. So on a weekly basis, our sales team come across customers who've invested considerable resources building out container management using Kubernetes typically. And when they come to us, they realize 2 things. 1, they've not only been building the easy things, but 2, how far away they actually are from achieving what they want to end up with. It's never too late to switch though. We usually find that build efforts concentrated around the development process can be reused and integrated through our API. Suffice it to say, it'll cost you 10x what you've already spent to achieve full PaaS automation, and probably several X to run it. And you probably won't be doing anything like the volume we are, so you'll be paying, who knows, 1.5 to 2x for all your compute and storage from your IaaS vendor. Kubernetes really is an incredible piece of software, don't get me wrong, but it's also an incredibly complex system. It gives you flexibility to run any sort of container you want, but your ops team still need to solve a load of problems around the management of those containers. Yeah, of course, you can put anything into your container, any image you like. The trouble is there's tens of thousands of images out there, and they all come from scripts. So who knows what foreign bodies may have made it into the image you're using. In fact, images are so opaque, they're commonly known as blobs. And you really need to know whatever made it into your container is what the developer put into Git. I asked the engineering team to give me some examples of the difficult things that need to be built when you decide to start managing container apps in production. If your build chain isn't reproducible, then you're running services you may not know how to update, because once you deploy a container, there's nothing to stop it changing. So you need a repeatable build process with deterministic results. And when your changes make it to live, they need to be immutable, running within a read-only environment, which means nothing can ever change them. And your orchestration service, that needs to know what each process is doing at any one time, because allowing the orchestrator to abruptly shut down a container whilst writing to disk means certain data corruption and, of course, a catastrophic impact to the application. So that, again, is a key component of failover and application resilience. So these things are really, really difficult to build. We have over 70,000 developers now in our account system, and they're using platform for a whole variety of technologies. We launched this PaaS product in 2015 with supporting PHP and Drupal, and we then quickly supported the Symfony framework, and more recently we added Node, Python, Golang, Ruby, and a host of other languages, and within the last year we've added Java and .NET. And we actually have some very big, complex Java applications running already on platform in live. And our development community and our users are seeing pretty impressive productivity savings because they're not doing DevOps anymore. These stats, by the way, have come from case studies we've done with 40, 45 customers or so. And if you think about it, the developers are getting much more productive because they're turning things around a lot quicker. They're not issuing tickets and waiting for infrastructure. Stakeholders are signing things off in record time. And there's just a lot less problem solving going on, all of which leads to more productivity and a much higher deployment velocity. So that brings me to an end. Thanks for listening. We can probably take some questions now. Catherine.
Yes, I have a couple questions, and if you haven't submitted any questions yet, the Q&A chat or Q&A box at the bottom, you can add some questions too. So the first question is, can I run a headless CRM with 4 technologies in Stack?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I can't give you a very technical answer to that, but yeah, we provide multi-app, multi-stack, all running within the same project, and that allows you to run headless CMSs and different technologies at the front end and so on. So yes is the answer to that.
Awesome. Another question that came in is, how quickly can we get a bunch of Java and PHP apps migrated to production?
Well, that depends, of course. It's a good question. It's pretty quick though. You know, if you bear in mind that the essence of platform is that it's Git driven. So you have your application code living in Git, and you know, at a very simple level, you're redirecting your Git repo at platform, and you're then deploying into platform. There's a bit of setup required, and there's a bit of, depending on the size of the app, the large enterprise apps, you'd probably expect to work with our consulting engagement teams, and they'll figure out what resources you need, and they'll give you a bit of training and help setting things up. But it's very quick. You can get an app up and running within a few hours, a day max.
Awesome. Those are the only questions I see right now, Kieran.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you very much for listening. You can see my contact details. Please get in touch. You could also follow me on Twitter. You'll see various blogs in your feed. I've covered quite a lot in the SaaS space around the SaaS business model recently and moving apps to SaaS. And in 2 weeks, I'm publishing another piece on ROI and savings, which will be helpful if you're trying to justify a PaaS business case. So thanks very much and looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.